Okay, I've been with Survival Strategies, since about the mid-90s, and I've done all their programs. Not all of the ones now are the same ones as then because they were in development. And we're basically a small practice. I didn't have any big desire to open up multiple clinics. Live in a fairly small area, 45,000, but access to a little larger group. And our goal was to have a good, viable clinic at the level that was at. And my goal was to expand no more than about 10 employees. That's basically where I was at. And they definitely helped me do that. First of all, we took the management program to see how things were structured and how I could structure so that I wasn't doing everything. That was a huge issue for me. And getting another therapist on and looking at me as the practice owner rather than the therapist working in the practice. That was huge. And see yourself as an owner and that you can't do it all. So that was really important. So we expanded from that. And we've definitely gone through some hard times over the years. And one thing I've really valued with Survival Strategies is that if you do the technology, it works. And they've been there, even though sometimes it looked like it was just dismal, end of the road kind of stuff. We've popped back from that. So at this point, what I want to do is transition from what we have been doing to looking at the future. Like I said, I've been with them for quite a long time. I've been in the field over 30 years now. And I'm looking at, okay, how can I transition out of the practice if I choose to do that? How can I rebuild to a level that's satisfying for me, make sure that things are tight, clean, and mean and green, as they're saying, and get the practice so that it's more flowing and I don't have to put so much effort into it all the time. So I'm meeting with some of the Survival Strategies staff, and they've been really good about with us. We're not really doing a specific program per se, but working out other alternatives that meet our specific needs. So it isn't just a canned program, you go for a weekend, you get this wonderful stuff and then never hear from them again. It's an ongoing program, which actually was kind of threatening to some of my staff at first, that they had this ongoing program and they were going to stick with you till you finished it. And it really held you accountable for doing the work. One thing that's been helpful over the years too is when we go to the annual meetings, or even when we don't, there's a network of therapists to call. A lot of times, especially in a small area, you don't have a lot of therapists to bounce ideas off of. They're your competitors, so you want to get somebody who has a fresh view. And as I said, it's not all practices that are multi locations with tons and tons of people. There are smaller practices too, and that helps because then you have people who can relate to where you're at. Well, I know Craig and I have had connection over the years, as well as with Tim Mantis. Those are probably the two that have been there the longest that I've known, and usually check up on me. If they haven't heard from me for a while, they'll call and say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Do you want to do a practice analysis? Is there anything we can help you with? And that's been really nice. My understanding of L. Ron Hubbard was that he was a businessman first, and then he developed Scientology. And some of the technology that you use in the programs relates to that, but that's not necessarily it's not a religious thing. It's not you're going to become a Scientologist. In fact, we have our staff be well aware at the beginning of what those techniques are. And most of them are just practical, everyday kinds of things that make a lot of sense and steps that you work through. And it can apply to your life, it can apply to your business, other relationships in the community, referrals, just so that you know where people are coming from in an objective way rather than just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and not knowing what you're doing. Well, I think a lot of times when I'm going through the training, especially at the beginning, and you saw different techniques and different tone levels and that kind of thing, we'd go back and sort of identify those, and you start looking at people that you know in a little different way. So you can see where the glitches are in relationships or with your staff. It could be with staff. It doesn't necessarily have to be just in your personal relationships. And I can't think of anything anecdotal right off the top of my head, but I think overall it does help you look at things in a different way. Okay. I know one therapist that I was talking to, and I agree with this, is she warned her family that when she came home she'd be a different person. And that's true, because you do have a different perspective and can look at things in a little different way. I like Survival Strategies because it's a straightforward program. If you do what they tell you to do, you'll have success with it. If you don't, you won't. And it does take some commitment. It does take time. And that's okay. You're going to put the commitment and time in if you're going to be a practice owner anyway. You're going to have to put commitment and time in. But this gives you a way to do it that's tried and true, something that's been going on for a long period of time, so you can trust it and know that you're not alone.